The ship shook as it dropped out of faster-than-light travel. Commander Jake Morrison gripped his chair and watched the stars stop streaking past the windows. After 3 months of searching empty space, they had finally found something. "Report," Jake said to his crew on the bridge of the exploration ship Frontier. "Sir, we have multiple contacts," said Communications Officer Beth Murphy. Her voice was tight with excitement. 12 ships, all unknown design. They're big, Commander. Really big." Dr. Lisa Blake looked up from her science station. "I'm reading energy signatures I've never seen before. These aren't human ships." Jake felt his heart race. First contact. After 200 years of space travel, humanity had finally found someone else out there. He stood up and smoothed his uniform. "Open a channel," he ordered. The main screen flickered and showed the image of something that definitely wasn't human. The being had 4 arms, pale, blue skin, and large black eyes. It wore what looked like ceremonial robes covered in strange symbols. "I am Ambassador Veltar of the Zeridian Confederation," the alien said. Its voice was translated by the ship's computer, but Jake could hear the musical quality underneath. "We greet you, travelers from the silent sector." "I'm Commander Jake Morrison of the Earthship Frontier," Jake replied. "We come in peace, seeking knowledge and friendship." The alien's expression changed. Its large eyes grew even wider. "Earth?" it repeated. "You are from Earth? From the Dark Zone?" Jake frowned. "We call our home planet Earth, yes." "What do you mean by Dark Zone?" Ambassador Veltar seemed to struggle with something. Other aliens appeared behind him, all talking, in urgent whispers. Finally, Veltar turned back to the screen. "Commander Morrison, this is most unusual. Most disturbing. Your species should not be able to travel here. Your space is marked as forbidden." "Forbidden?" Dr. Blake stepped forward. "Forbidden by whom?" "By the ancient navigation protocols. By the star maps themselves. The region you call your home does not exist on our charts. It cannot be plotted. It cannot be reached." Captain Ryan Torres, Jake's second-in-command, joined the conversation. "But we're here. We traveled from our space to yours. There's no barrier." The alien delegation grew more agitated. Veltar raised one of his 4 hands for silence. Perhaps we should meet in person. This requires careful discussion. Will you accept an invitation to our ship?" 2 hours later, Jake found himself in an airlock, wearing his dress uniform and trying not to show his nervousness. Dr. Blake and Captain Torres flanked him as they stepped onto the Zeridian vessel. The ship was enormous inside, with curved walls that seemed to glow with their own light. The air smelled like flowers and electricity. Veltar met them at the airlock, along with 2 other Zeridians. "Welcome aboard the Harmony of Distant Stars," Veltar said. "Please follow me to the navigation center. What I must show you will be difficult to understand." They walked through corridors filled with other aliens. Jake saw at least 6 different species all working together. Some were tall and thin with silver skin. Others were short and covered in what looked like fur. All of them stopped to stare at the humans. "How many species are in your confederation?" Dr. Blake asked. "Currently, 437, replied one of Veltar's companions, who had introduced himself as Historian Kexith. "We have been exploring and mapping the galaxy for over 10,000 years." 10,000 years? Torres whistled. "How big is your territory?" "Come," Veltar said. "See for yourself." The navigation center was a vast room with a 3-dimensional map of the galaxy floating in the center. Jake gasped. The map showed millions of stars, connected by travel routes and marked with symbols. Different colors indicated different species' territories. It was beautiful and terrifying at the same time. "This is our galaxy," Veltar explained. "Every star system we have explored, every trade route we have established, every species we have contacted." He gestured to the massive display. "But look here." Veltar pointed to one section of the map. Where Jake expected to see more stars and routes, there was nothing, a dark empty space that seemed to eat the light around it. "What's that?" Jake asked, though he was starting to understand. "That is where your space should be," Kexith said quietly. Based on your travel time and the direction you came from, your home systems should be right there. But they are not on our maps. They cannot be on our maps. Dr. Blake studied the empty space with scientific curiosity. Why not? Because the navigation computers will not allow it, Veltar explained. Any attempt to plot a course into that region fails. The computers simply refuse. They act as if that space does not exist. But that's impossible, Torres said. Space is space. You can't just hide a whole section of the galaxy. The Zeridians exchanged uncomfortable looks. Finally, Veltar spoke. Commander Morrison, how long has your species been traveling in space? About 200 years for interstellar travel, Jake replied. We've colonized maybe 50 star systems. And in all that time, you never encountered another species? Never found evidence of galactic civilization? Jake shook his head. We always wondered if we were alone. We kept exploring, hoping to find someone. That should be impossible, Kexith said. The galaxy is full of life, full of civilizations. Even in the Outer Rim territories, you should have found someone. Trade routes cross near your region. Exploration ships pass through those areas regularly. But we didn't see any ships. Dr. Blake protested. No, Veltar said softly. You would not. Because they could not see you either. Something is keeping our peoples apart. Something ancient and powerful. Jake felt a chill run down his spine. What do you mean? Veltar activated a different display. Ancient text appeared, written in symbols that hurt to look at directly. These are fragments of records left by the architects, Veltar explained. A civilization that ruled the galaxy long before any of our current species evolved. Most of their records were destroyed, but we have found pieces, warnings. Warnings about what? About the silent sector, about the dark zone, about the hunters from the empty stars. Veltar's voice dropped to a whisper. About why that region of space was sealed away from the rest of the galaxy. The room fell silent except for the hum of the ship's engines. Jake looked at the empty space on the map, then at his companions. Dr. Blake was pale, and Torres looked like he wanted to run. Sealed away, Jake repeated. You're saying someone deliberately hid human space from the rest of the galaxy? Not someone, Kexith corrected. Something, and not to keep you hidden from us. He paused, his alien features showing what Jake recognized as fear. To keep something else trapped with you. The implications hit Jake like a physical blow. Humanity wasn't alone in their section of space. They never had been. Something else was there. Something so dangerous that an ancient civilization had walled off an entire region of the galaxy to contain it. And now somehow humans had broken through that wall. 3 days had passed since the shocking revelation in the navigation center. Jake Morrison sat in his quarters aboard the Frontier, staring at data files that made no sense. Every piece of information the Zeridians had shared painted the same picture. Human space was not just hidden from galactic maps, it was actively blocked by technology no one understood. A soft chime announced someone at his door. Come in, Jake called. Dr. Lisa Blake entered, carrying a tablet and wearing the expression she got when science excited her. Commander, you need to see this. Veltar gave me access to some of the architect records. The translations are rough, but I think I understand why we were isolated. Jake set aside his report. Show me. Lisa activated her tablet, displaying symbols that seemed to shift and change as he looked at them. These are from crystal data matrices found in architect ruins across the galaxy. The language is incredibly complex, but historian Kexith helped me work through some sections. What do they say? They talk about something called the Void Touched, creatures that exist between dimensions, feeding on consciousness itself. According to these records, they nearly destroyed all life in the galaxy thousands of years ago. Jake felt his stomach drop. Nearly destroyed everything? The architects fought them for centuries. Traditional weapons were useless because these creatures could phase in and out of normal space. They consumed entire civilizations, not just killing the people but draining their memories, their thoughts, their very souls. Lisa swiped to another section of text. But then the architects discovered something. A specific type of neural pattern. that could hurt these creatures. Brain waves that operated on a frequency the void touched couldn't handle. And they found this pattern in humans? Not exactly. Lisa's eyes gleamed with scientific fascination. They predicted it. The architects were incredible scientists. They calculated that a species with this neural pattern would eventually evolve. So they prepared. Jake leaned forward. Prepared how? They built the containment field around what would become human space, then they waited and waited. For thousands of years they kept the void touch trapped in that region, until humans evolved, Jake finished. Right. We developed exactly the neural patterns they predicted. Our brains naturally generate frequencies that disrupt the void touched. We're living weapons, Commander. Weapons designed by evolution and guided by architect planning. A knock at the door interrupted them. Captain Torres entered without waiting for permission. His face was grim. Sir, we have a problem. Chief Engineer Danny Walsh has been analyzing our ship's systems alongside Zeridian technology. The differences are massive. What kind of differences? Jake asked. Torres activated the room's display screen. Technical diagrams appeared, showing both human and alien technology side by side. Every other species in the galaxy developed along similar lines, Torres explained. Their power systems, their computers, their engines, all based on the same scientific principles. But look at our tech. Jake studied the diagrams. Even to his non-technical eye, the differences were obvious. Human technology looked completely alien compared to the galactic standard. It's like we took a totally different path, Torres continued. Danny thinks it's because we were isolated. We had to figure everything out on our own, so we developed unique solutions. Dr. Blake looked up from her tablet. That's not a coincidence. Look at this passage from the architect records. She read from the ancient text. The chosen people will sing in the frequency of reality itself. Their tools will be forged in the counter-melody that burns the void touched. Their weapons will be thoughts made manifest. Counter-melody? Jake asked. I think it means our technology operates on principles that directly oppose the void touched. While they phase through normal matter and energy, our systems might be able to affect them. Torres nodded grimly. Danny found something else. Our quantum computers don't just process information, they actually alter local space-time on a microscopic level. No other species has technology that does that. Because no other species needed it, Lisa realized. We developed reality-altering technology because we were sharing space with creatures that exist outside normal reality. Jake stood up and paced to the window. Outside, he could see the Zeridian fleet maintaining formation. With the frontier, dozens of alien ships all using technology based on the same galactic principles. All except the humans. There's more, Torres said quietly. Lieutenant Amy Foster has been going through historical records with Kexith. She found something disturbing. Amy. Foster appeared on the communication screen from the bridge. Her young face looked troubled. Commander, I've been studying the timing of human development against architect records. Everything matches too perfectly to be coincidence. What do you mean? The architect's final message talks about sealing the void, touched away until the singers of reality could emerge. They calculated exactly when humans would develop space travel, when we'd spread across enough star systems to be effective. Amy paused, checking her notes. Sir, the containment field around our space isn't just keeping other species out. It's designed to weaken over time. According to the mathematical models, it should fail completely within the next few years. The room fell silent. Jake felt the weight of understanding settle on his shoulders like a lead blanket. They're saying we were bred to be weapons, he said slowly. Humanity's entire evolutionary path was guided to produce beings who could fight these void-touch creatures. And now the prison is about to open, Lisa added. The architects knew they couldn't contain the void touched forever. They were buying time for us to develop. Torres brought up another display. There's something else. The Zeridians have been monitoring energy fluctuations in our region of space. The patterns match descriptions in the architect records of void touched activity. You're saying they're already active in human space? We think they've been testing the barriers for decades. Small probes, minor reality distortions. Nothing that would register on our sensors because we don't know what to look for. Amy Foster's voice came through the communicator again. Sirs, there's one more thing. The architect records mention something called the final awakening, when the chosen people would need to embrace their purpose fully. What does that mean? Lisa looked up from her tablet, her face pale. I think it means we haven't activated our abilities yet. The neural patterns that can hurt the void touched exist in human brains, but we don't know how to use them consciously. So we're weapons that don't know how to fire, Jake said. Exactly. And according to these calculations, we don't have much time to figure it out. The communication system chimed with an urgent message. The bridge officer's voice was tense. Commander, Morrison, we're receiving a priority transmission from Earth. It's Admiral Cross aboard the Guardian. Jake activated the main communication system. Admiral Peter Cross appeared on screen, his weathered face showing strain. Jake, thank God we reached you. We have a situation. 3 outer rim colonies have gone dark in the past week. No distress calls, no responses to communications. When our scout ships arrived, they found the planets completely lifeless. Lifeless how, sir? Not destroyed. Drained. Every living thing dead, but no signs of weapons fire or natural disaster. It's like something sucked the life right out of everything. Dr. Blake grabbed Jake's arm. The void touched, they've started feeding, Admiral Cross continued. The affected systems are all on the edge of human space near what our sensors show as empty regions. But Jake, our instruments are picking up massive energy distortions moving inward. Whatever did this is heading for the core worlds. Jake looked around at his crew, seeing his own fear reflected in their faces. The ancient prison was opening. The void touched were free, and humanity had no idea how to fight creatures that consumed souls themselves. Admiral, Jake said, we need to talk, all of us, because I think we know what we're dealing with, and it's worse than you can imagine. The emergency meeting took place aboard the massive Zeridian command ship. Jake Morrison found himself sitting at a curved table with Admiral Cross, Ambassador Veltar, and the top military commanders from both species. The holographic display in the center showed the grim reality they all faced. Admiral Cross pointed to the red markers spreading across human space. 7 more colonies have gone silent in the past 2 days. The pattern is clear. Something is moving systematically through our outer territories heading toward Earth. Not something, Veltar corrected quietly. The void touched. They have finally broken free. General Kate Sullivan, Admiral Cross's second-in-command, leaned forward. Our long-range sensors are picking up massive distortions in space-time itself. Whatever these things are, they're tearing holes in reality as they move. Dr. Blake activated her tablet, showing the architect records to the assembled group. According to the ancient texts, the void touch don't just kill. They consume consciousness, memory, and life force itself. A planet they've fed on becomes completely empty. Not just dead, but drained of everything that makes it real. Jake watched the faces around the table. The human officers looked confused and frightened. The Zeridians looked terrified. How do we fight something like that? Asked Captain Torres. Historian Kexith spoke up from his position near the display. The architects fought them for centuries and barely survived. Traditional weapons cannot harm beings that exist partially outside normal space-time. But humans can hurt them, Dr. Blake said. The records are clear about that. Our neural patterns naturally generate frequencies that disrupt their phase-shifting abilities. Admiral Cross frowned. What does that mean in practical terms, Doctor? I'm not entirely sure yet, sir. The architect texts talk about humans being able to sing reality back into focus and burn the void with thoughts made solid. It sounds like our minds can somehow affect these creatures directly. Communications Officer Beth Murphy suddenly looked up from her station. Sir, we're getting reports from across the galaxy. The void touched aren't just attacking human space anymore. The main display shifted to show the galactic map. Red warning signals were appearing throughout Zeridian territory and beyond. They've spread to 17 different star systems in the past hour. Beth continued. The Confederation is losing entire worlds. Veltar's forearms trembled. This is exactly what the ancient warnings described. Once the void touched break free from their prison, they spread like a plague across the galaxy. They won't stop until they've consumed every living mind. Admiral Cross stood up, his face grim. Then we need to figure out how to use these human abilities, and we need to do it fast. A new voice joined the conversation as Chief Engineer Danny Walsh appeared on the communication screen. Admiral, I've been working with the Zeridian technical teams. I think I found something important. Report, Chief. Our quantum computers don't just process information, sir. They actually create small changes in local reality. When I compared our technology to Zeridian systems, the difference is incredible. Their tech works with the universe as it is. Ours changes the universe to work with us. Dr. Blake's eyes widened. That's it. That's how we can fight them. Our technology is already designed to alter reality on a quantum level. We've been using reality manipulation tools without knowing it. But how does that help us fight the void? Touched? General Sullivan asked. Danny's image flickered as he transmitted new data. I ran some tests based on the architect records. When I focused our quantum computers on disrupting phase-shifted matter, the effects were dramatic. I actually managed to force a test object back into normal spacetime. Jake felt a spark of hope. You're saying our ships might already be equipped to fight these things? Not exactly, sir. The computers can do it, but they need very specific instructions, and the power requirements are massive. But there's something else. Danny paused, checking his readings. The most effective results came when I was personally focused on the process. Not just running the computers, but actively thinking about what I wanted them to do, like my mind was somehow directing the quantum effects. The room fell silent as everyone absorbed this information. Finally, Ambassador Veltar spoke. The architects wrote about this. They called it consciousness bridging, the ability of certain minds to directly interface with reality-altering technology. Meaning what exactly? Admiral Cross asked. Meaning that human minds and human technology together create something more powerful than either could achieve alone, Dr. Blake explained. We're not just weapons. We're weapons that can use tools designed specifically for this purpose. An urgent alarm sounded throughout the ship. Lieutenant Amy Foster's voice came over the communication system. All senior officers to the bridge immediately. We have incoming contacts. The group rushed to the command bridge where the main screen showed something that made Jake's blood run cold. Massive shapes were emerging from what looked like tears in space itself. The ships were organic-looking, covered in writhing tentacles and pulsing with dark energy that seemed to absorb light. 3 void-touched vessels, Amy reported. They just appeared out of nowhere about 50,000 kilometers away. How big are they? General Sullivan asked. Each one is roughly the size of a small moon, ma'am. The alien ships moved without any visible propulsion, gliding through space like predators stalking prey. As Jake watched, one of them extended what looked like feeding tendrils toward a nearby asteroid. The rock simply vanished, consumed so completely that not even debris remained. They're heading for the Zeridian colony world of Keftar, Veltar said, his voice barely a whisper. 3 million people live there. Admiral Cross turned to his officers. All ships, prepare for battle. We're going to stop those things before they reach the planet. Sir, Jake said carefully, our weapons won't work on them. And we don't know how to use these reality-altering abilities yet. Then we better learn fast, Commander. The human fleet moved to intercept the void-touched ships. Jake found himself back aboard the Frontier, watching as dozens of human vessels formed battle formation alongside hundreds of Zeridian ships. All weapons, target the lead ship, Admiral Cross ordered over the fleet communication system. The space around them lit up with energy weapons, missiles, and particle beams. The combined firepower of 2 entire fleets focused on the largest void-touched vessel. The attacks passed right through it. No effect, reported Captain Torres. The weapons aren't even slowing it down. The void-touched ship responded by extending more of its feeding tendrils. They reached out across impossible distances, stretching through space toward the attacking ships. When the tendrils touched the first Zeridian vessel, the ship simply ceased to exist. No explosion, no debris. It was there one moment and gone the next. All ships fall back, Admiral Cross ordered. We need a new strategy. But it was too late. The void touched had tasted organized resistance, and they were hungry for more. All three alien ships began moving faster, their tendrils reaching out toward more targets. Jake watched in horror as ship after ship vanished from the fleet formation. The creatures weren't just destroying the vessels. They were erasing them from existence, consuming not just the matter and energy, but the very idea that the ships had ever been real. "Commander," Dr. Blake called from her station. "I'm reading. Massive neural activity from the crew. Everyone's brainwaves are spiking." "What does that mean?" "I think it means we're starting to fight back. Not consciously, but instinctively. Our minds are reacting to the presence of the void touched." Jake looked around the bridge and realized she was right. Every human crew member had a look of intense concentration, as if they were all trying to solve the same impossible problem. Without knowing how or why, they were beginning to awaken abilities that had been dormant for their entire species' existence. The real battle was about to begin. The retreat to Station Apollo was the longest 3 days of Jake Morrison's life. Half the combined fleet had been erased by the void touched, and the survivors limped back to humanity's largest military base with reports that made no sense. "The creatures didn't just destroy our ships," reported Captain Elena Ross from the heavy cruiser Defiant. "They consumed them. When the tendrils touched the Helsinki, I watched it fade away like it had never existed. The crew, the ship, even the records of it in our computers. Gone." Admiral Kate Sullivan stood before a room full of desperate officers and scientists. Station Apollo's main briefing room was packed with every available expert, both human and Ceridian. The holographic display showed the advancing void-touched fleet, now numbering in the hundreds. "We have perhaps 6 hours before they reach the core worlds," Sullivan announced. "Earth, Mars, the Luna colonies. Billions of people who have no idea what's coming for them." Dr. Lisa Blake raised her hand. "Admiral, we've made some progress, understanding the human neural response to these creatures. When our people were exposed to the void touched, their brain patterns changed dramatically." "Changed how?" "The quantum frequencies in human neural tissue started resonating in harmony, not just on individual ships, but across the entire fleet. It's like our minds were trying to link together into a single network." Chief Engineer Danny Walsh nodded from his position at the technical station. "I saw the same thing with our quantum computers. When the void touched appeared, the computers started operating beyond their normal parameters. They were trying to interface with the crew's minds." Jake leaned forward in his chair. "Are you saying our technology and our brains are designed to work together?" "More than that," Dr. Blake replied. "I think they're designed to amplify each other. Human neural patterns feed into the quantum computers, which then alter local reality based on focused human thought." Ambassador Veltar spoke up from his position near the alien delegation. "This matches the architect records. They wrote about mind singers who could reshape reality through focused will, supported by tools that bridged consciousness and quantum mechanics." Admiral Sullivan looked around the room. "So how do we make it work? How do we turn theory into something that can stop those things?" The answer came from an unexpected source. Rookie pilot Alex Turner, barely out of the academy, stood up nervously. "Ma'am, I think I might have accidentally figured it out." All eyes turned to the young pilot. Alex's face was red with embarrassment, but he continued. "During the battle, when the void-touched ships first appeared, something weird happened in my fighter squadron. We were supposed to retreat, but I got separated from the group." "Go on," Sullivan urged. "3 of the creature's tendrils came after me. I was sure I was dead, but then I started thinking really hard about not wanting to die, not wanting to disappear like the other ships. And something happened." Alex activated his personal data pad, showing sensor readings from his fighter. "My ship's quantum computer spiked to levels that should have been impossible. The energy output was 10 times normal. And the void-touched tendrils just stopped. They couldn't touch me." Dr. Blake grabbed the data pad, studying the readings. "This is incredible. Your neural activity synchronized perfectly with your ship's quantum systems. You created a localized reality field that the void touched couldn't penetrate." "But that's not the strangest part," Alex continued. When I got back to the squadron, the other pilots said they felt what I was feeling, like my thoughts were somehow broadcasting to them. And when we all focused together on protecting each other, our ships started working like a single unit. Danny. Walsh looked up from his technical analysis. The quantum computers were networking, not through electronic connections but through the pilots' synchronized neural patterns. Each human mind became a node in a reality-altering network. Jake felt a chill of understanding. You're saying that when humans focus together, we can actually change the rules of physics around us? Temporarily, yes, Dr. Blake confirmed. And the effect is proportional to the number of minds involved and the intensity of their focus. Admiral Sullivan stood up, her expression determined. Then we need to test this on a larger scale. How many people would we need to stop the void-touched fleet? Historian Kexith consulted his ancient records. The architect texts mention battles, where thousands of mind singers worked together to force entire void-touched armadas back into dimensional exile. Thousands, Sullivan repeated. We have the crews of 60 remaining ships. That's about 15,000 people. It might be enough, Dr. Blake said, but they would all need to focus on the same goal at exactly the same time. Perfect synchronization across multiple ships and distances. Communications Officer Beth Murphy looked up from her station. Admiral, I'm getting reports from across human space. The attacks on our colonies have stopped. Stopped? Yes, ma'am. The void-touched ships that were consuming our outer worlds have all turned around. They're heading back toward the main fleet. Veltar's forearms trembled. They're gathering their strength, preparing for a final assault on the core worlds. The main display updated to show the horrifying truth. Hundreds of void-touched ships were converging on a single point in space, directly between Station Apollo and Earth. The combined fleet was larger than anything in recorded history. How long do we have? Sullivan asked. 4 hours until they reach Earth's defensive perimeter, Beth reported. Admiral Sullivan looked around the room at the faces of humanity's defenders. Human and alien, military and civilian, all united by desperation and slim hope. Then we have 4 hours to learn how to save our species, she said. Dr. Blake, I want you working with every psychologist and neuroscientist we have. Figure out how to synchronize 15,000 minds. Danny, modify every quantum computer in the fleet for maximum neural interface capability. She turned to Jake. Commander Morrison, I'm putting you in charge of the battle coordination. If this works, you'll need to direct the entire fleet's consciousness like a single weapon. Jake felt the weight of responsibility settle on his shoulders. Admiral, I don't know if I can do that. None of us know if we can do this, Sullivan replied. But we're going to try anyway, because the alternative is watching our entire species get erased from existence. Dr. Blake was already working frantically at her station. I'm analyzing Alex Turner's neural patterns from his encounter. If I can replicate the synchronization effect across the fleet. Admiral, Beth Murphy called out urgently, we're getting a transmission from the void-touched fleet. The main screen flickered and showed something that made everyone in the room recoil. It wasn't a creature exactly, but a writhing mass of darkness that seemed to consume light itself. When it spoke, the voice came from everywhere at once, echoing inside their minds rather than through their ears. Singers of the small reality, the voice said. We have tasted your defiance. Your thoughts burn us with their simple certainty. But you are few and we are infinite. We have consumed galaxies, we will consume you. The image shifted to show Earth blue and beautiful in the void. Your world song will silence. Your dreams will feed us. Your reality will become void, as it should always have been. The transmission ended, leaving the room in stunned silence. Admiral Sullivan stood up slowly. Well, she said, now we know what we're really fighting for. Jake looked around at the faces of humanity's last hope. In 4 hours, they would either discover how to wield the power of human consciousness as a weapon, or they would watch their homeworld disappear into nothingness. The final battle for humanity's existence was about to begin. The final hour had arrived. Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the frontier watching the largest fleet in human history form up around Station Apollo. 60 ships carrying 15,000 souls, all preparing to face an enemy that could erase them from existence with a thought. All ships report ready for neural synchronization, Communications Officer Beth Murphy announced. Her hand shook slightly as she worked at her station. Dr. Lisa Blake looked up from the quantum computer interface she had spent the last 3 hours modifying. The neural network is online. Every human in the fleet is connected through their ship's quantum systems. But Jake, I've never tried to coordinate this many minds at once. We'll figure it out as we go, Jake replied, though his own confidence was shaking. Through the neural link, he could feel the emotions of every person in the fleet. Fear, determination, hope, and despair, all mixed together in an overwhelming wave. Admiral Kate Sullivan's voice came over the fleet communication system. All hands, this is Admiral Sullivan. In 10 minutes, we will engage an enemy unlike anything humanity has ever faced. They want to erase us from existence itself. But we have something they don't understand. We have each other. Jake felt the truth of those words through the neural network. 15,000 minds slowly synchronizing, their thoughts beginning to flow together like streams joining a river. Contact, reported Captain Torres from his position at the sensor station. The void-touched fleet is dropping out of phase space. Distance 200,000 kilometers? The main screen showed the horrifying sight. Hundreds of organic ships, each the size of a small moon, materializing out of tears in reality itself. Their dark surfaces writhed with tentacles that seemed to reach across impossible distances. My God, whispered Chief Engineer Danny Walsh. There are so many of them. Through the neural link, Jake felt the fear spike across the fleet. Thousands of minds recoiling from the sight of their approaching doom. But underneath the fear, he sensed something else. Anger. Determination. The human refusal to give up even when facing impossible odds. All ships, maintain formation, Jake ordered. Remember, we're not just fighting for ourselves. We're fighting for every human who ever lived and every human yet to be born. The void-touched fleet began to move, flowing through space like a dark tide. As they approached, reality itself seemed to bend around them. Stars flickered and dimmed. Space-time rippled like water. Jake, Dr. Blake called out, I'm reading massive distortions in local space-time. They're not just moving through our reality, they're changing it as they come. Through the neural network, Jake felt Alex Turner's presence from his fighter squadron. The young pilot who had first discovered how to fight these creatures was broadcasting his experience to every mind in the fleet. Focus on what you want to protect. Alex's thoughts came through clearly. Think about Earth, about your families, about everything that makes us human. Make that more real than anything else. Jake closed his eyes and reached out through the neural network. He could feel every human mind in the fleet, their thoughts and emotions flowing together. Slowly, carefully, he began to guide that combined consciousness toward a single purpose. The void. Touched ships extended their feeding tendrils, reaching across the void toward the human fleet, but this time something was different. As the dark appendages approached the first human ships, they slowed, then stopped, then began to pull back. It's working, Torres reported with amazement. The quantum computers are generating a reality field around the entire fleet. The void touch can't penetrate it. But Jake could feel the strain through the neural link. 15,000 minds working in perfect harmony, their combined will forcing reality to bend around them. It was like trying to hold back an ocean with pure thought. The void-touched responded by intensifying their attack. More tendrils emerged from their ships, probing for weaknesses in the human reality field. And through the neural link came something that made Jake's blood run cold. The voice of the void-touched speaking directly into their synchronized minds. Clever singers, you burn us with your simple certainty. But we are patient. We are eternal. Your focus will weaken. Your reality will crack. And we will feed. Jake felt doubt begin to creep into the neural network. Some minds wavering under the psychic assault. The reality field flickered. Hold fast, Admiral Sullivan's voice came through, both the communication system and the neural link. Remember what we're fighting for. But the void touched pressed their advantage. More ships materialized from the void, surrounding the human fleet. Hundreds became thousands. Their combined psychic pressure was like a weight crushing down on the synchronized human consciousness. Jake, Dr. Blake's voice was strained. The quantum computers are overloading. We can't maintain this level of reality manipulation much longer. Through the neural link, Jake felt individual minds beginning to slip away from the synchronization. Fear and exhaustion were breaking down the perfect harmony they needed to maintain their defense. That's when he felt something unexpected. Through the neural network came new voices. Millions of them. Every human on Earth, Mars, and the colonies. Somehow the quantum field had expanded beyond the fleet to include every member of their species. "We're with you," came the combined thought of humanity itself. All of us. Every human who ever lived or ever will live. We stand together. The reality field around the fleet exploded outward, powered not just by 15,000 minds, but by the entire human species. The void-touched ships recoiled as if burned, their tendrils withering in the face of pure human determination. Jake opened his eyes and saw something miraculous. The space around Earth was filling with light. Not the light of stars, but the light of human consciousness made manifest. Every thought, every dream, every hope of their species blazing like a beacon in the darkness. The void-touched fleet began to retreat, their ships fading back into the spaces between realities. But their leader's voice echoed one last time through the neural link. "This is not over, singers. We are eternal. We will return." "No," Jake replied, his voice carrying the will of every human alive. "You won't. We know who we are now. We know what we can do, and we'll be ready." The last of the void-touched ships vanished into the void, driven back to whatever dimension they had come from. The tears in reality sealed themselves, space-time healing under the influence of focused human will. As the neural link gradually faded, Jake found himself back on the bridge of the frontier. Around him, his crew was staring in wonder at the view screen, where Earth hung beautiful and blue and safe. "Commander," Beth Murphy reported, her voice filled with awe. "We're getting communications from across the galaxy. The Zeridians, and dozens of other species. They're all asking the same question." "What question?" "They want to know if humanity is ready to take our place as the galaxy's guardians, to watch for threats that exist beyond normal reality." Jake looked around at his crew, then out at the human fleet that had just saved not only their own species, but every thinking being in the galaxy. He thought about the neural network, about the power of human consciousness when unified in purpose. "Tell them yes," he said quietly. "Tell them we'll be watching." 6 months later, Ambassador Veltar stood before a new galactic map. For the first time in thousands of years, the empty region of space had been filled in. But instead of showing human territory, it bore a new designation. "The Silent Watchers," Veltar read aloud. "Guardians of reality. Do not disturb." And in the depths of space, at listening posts scattered throughout human territory, men and women with minds linked by quantum consciousness kept their eternal vigil, watching the spaces between realities, waiting for threats that might emerge from the void. Humanity had found its purpose among the stars, not as conquerors or explorers, but as the galaxy's immune system against horrors that existed beyond the boundaries of normal existence. They were no longer alone. They were no longer hidden. They were exactly what they had always been meant to be. They were the guardians at the edge of forever,